Hey everybody, Brian and Leslie Fatherees here with the Unbreakable podcast coming to you once again. Here we are, month 2 already of the year of
We
2024.
counting.
Okay, February.
It's February. We can't keep track of all the numbers.
I didn't say episode 2, I said month 2.
Okay.
We can keep track of that. There's only 12 of them.
No, that's true.
If we can't keep track of that, you shouldn't listen to us. I'm just saying. But anyway, we are coming to the month of February, and what we're talking to you this month about is age-specific parenting. What's that even mean?
Define that, honey.
I will. Theologically, we are what some people would call dispensationalists. So if you look throughout the Scripture, you'll find different dispensations of time that God defines in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take the time to go through all of that.
Right.
But if you look at the different dispensations in Scripture that are lined out, the age of innocence, the age of government, the age of grace, the law, they line up with the progression of natural life and how you grow and develop as an individual, as a person. They line up perfectly. So you can actually take that kind of dispensational thought and tie it to how you parent. And that's what we did. We took that and we tied it to different things. There's also another way to look at that, because and this came out naturally. I didn't really do reading or study or listen to blogs or psychologists and psychiatrists on this. It just came natural after at least child 2, maybe child 3. They talk about boundaries. And how in development, children as they grow will push boundaries almost every time at a certain age. There's certain ages that they push boundaries because they're growing, they're developing, and they're getting, hang on to this, don't, write this down, this is profound. They're getting thoughts of their own. They come with them, but they begin to express them. And then their expression, they begin to push boundaries. And it's different types of boundaries for different age sections of life. So it's not like a certain boundary at 1, certain boundary at 3.
Right.
That's like overparenting. But there are parenting boundaries that you should have for your children. Early on, they learn how to say no. They learn how to disobey. They do all of those things, right? So we've had 5 children, and my joke with my wife all along is that when the children are born, the nurses grab the children in the hospital nursery or wherever you have your child at, and the nurse or the midwives or whatever, they lean down and tell your children, divide and conquer. Divide
it's a joke.
and conquer. And they learn that so quickly and so early. And so you need to be prepared to parent. So the first thing we will tell you, and this is a principle that applies across every single age that your children will grow into, from infancy to adulthood. And it's this: you must be on the same page with your spouse. When it comes to parenting. You must have already made decisions ahead of time how you're going to parent and how you're going to do that. How you're going to talk about that with your children. You need to do that in such a way that, like that. We're fixing my color on the screen. Pardon me, but you need to have a consensus in parenting. Because I was joking about the divide and conquer thing, but I'm not. In our house, from the very young age, children, they'll come to me, Daddy, I want to, whatever it is, I want to eat 3 buckets of ice cream topped with cotton candy and peanuts and M&Ms. And I'm like, no. I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. And like, okay. And then they walk over their sweet little innocent self and walk over to Mom. And they're like, hey, Mom, I want to eat 3 buckets of ice cream with cotton candy and peanuts and M&Ms. And the first thing that we do when our children, our people ask us these crazy questions is, did you talk to your mom or dad about this? Whichever role.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
no. Well, I'm saying no. So they go over, Mom, you ask Dad? Yeah. What did Dad say? No. I said, well, what am I going to say?
No.
No. But you learn to have a united front in your parenting.
Yes. United front. Very important.
Now, if you disagree, they went to Mom, said, I need the ice cream and the cotton candy and the peanuts and M&Ms. And she said no. Came to me, and I'm like, that sounds really good. Let's do that.
How it would happen.
let's I'm putting it on me, not on you.
Yeah, I know.
That sounds great. Let's do that. So I'm disagreeing with Mom, but I'm like, but I got to okay this with your mom. We can't just do this. We can't rebel against Mom. So I'll go have a private conversation like, that child, brilliant. I can't believe they came up with this. I'm taking that one out. We're going to do this. All right. It's still going to be a no.
No.
but the point is, we have a discussion.
We come to a compromise at least.
Yeah.
And decide which way to go and how large of a bowl of that it's going to be.
What it's going to be is, you can go get them an ice cream cone.
Yeah. We're going to change this to something reasonable.
Or you can get a tub of ice cream, bring it home, and we'll make homemade sundaes at the house.
Yes, right.
We'll compromise somehow. This depends on how. But we come to a resolution without the child involved in that dialogue at that moment. Later in life, as they become more adultish, can I use that term?
Yeah.
As they grow and develop, we may include them in the conversation.
Right.
But when they're small, that conversation happens privately between Mom and Dad.
Right.
And so we always present a unified front.
Right.
Always. We still do.
That was a very funny example of that.
Yeah.
But there's some really other things that, kids want to do that it's like you need to be united on who's, they want to stay all night somewhere. They want to,
right.
They want to go ride their bike somewhere that's farther than the set boundaries
right.
or, whatever. So these things come up as you're parenting, and you want to make sure that you are together on the point that's being brought up. And the reason that a child will try the divide and conquer is because children come with sin nature.
Yeah.
And
what?
That's
no,
a whole...
Your perfect little angels did not come with sin nature. They're all perfect.
Whole theology point that needs to, that you need to understand. Children come with a sin nature.
Yeah.
Folly is bound up in the heart of a child because they're born in sin nature. And so it's our job to help them get over that, get through it, and change into a person who becomes wise, who serves Jesus, who is saved and no longer a sinner.
Yeah.
All those things. That's what we are working to do.
And if you don't think, I'm sorry to jump on it.
Fine.
And if you don't think that's true, think of these words. Hey, Mom, watch this. The folly comes out.
Yes. Yes, watch this.
Watch this is never a good lead-in with a little child. And I'm
Not
sorry,
usually.
I jumped on what you're saying.
No, it's okay. It's true, though. That's not really good. So that's the reason we need to have a united front, is so that we can come to those things, and then together we know what we're working on and what's okay and what's not.
Yes.
And we can parent without giving that child an idea that, I could split these parents. If they feel like they can split you and divide you,
they will all day long,
because then they'll get what they want.
Right.
And that's what every selfish, self-centered person who's born wants to do, get what they want.
Yeah.
But parents should know what is better for their child than what the child knows. So.
That's why you don't parent randomly. You parent with principle and with purpose.
Yes.
You have things laid out. This is serious. You're right. It is. That's a person that you're helping develop for the next 18 to 20 some odd years.
Right.
And it's our responsibility. I don't abdicate my responsibility to the school system. I don't abdicate my responsibility to other family people. I don't abdicate my responsibility to the government. Right. I take that responsibility upon myself. My wife and I both take that responsibility. It's our job to raise our children. We don't buy into the philosophy that it takes a village. It takes parents. There may be a village of people who help you in the process, but it takes you. And so you can't abdicate your responsibility and expect results that you actually want later in life. Right. So today we're going to talk about from infancy through toddlerism.
Toddlerism? That's a good one.
It's a disease, toddlerism. It's a really cute disease, but it's a disease.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. Empathy to toddlerism.
Now you're going to use it.
I'm going to
yeah.
copyright
okay.
that.
All right.
You know, Pat Riley got 3-peat and I got toddlerism. It's going to be great.
Okay.
So anyway, we're going to do that. And so it's a really fun stage of life.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very fun stage of life because they learn so fast. The formative years of a child's life is 0 to 8. Mm-hmm. And so the next podcast, we're going to talk about after toddlerism and the next level of life. And that's actually probably the single most important stage right. of life. But toddler, what, 0 to 3?
0 to 3.
0 to 3. So from the time they're born to about 3 years of age, give or take a little bit, you know, you don't like, oh, it's 3 years, that part's over. No, it doesn't quite work that way. Is that set in stone like that? But
it kind of fades in and out.
It does. Yeah. So from 0 to 3 is a time that you're teaching them yes and no. You're teaching them, you know, how much you love them and care for them. You're teaching them basic skills like walking
yeah.
and talking.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you an example, something that we did, and everybody thought it was crazy when I did this because with our children, mm-hmm. we never personally talked baby talk to our babies.
We cooed at them. We
sure.
talked, you know, I mean, we were sweet to them, but
we talked at their level.
Yeah.
But we didn't, you know, gerbily words and funky sounds, and we didn't do all that.
And make up words that were wrong
right.
for the things that they were talking about.
We spoke normally to them, like we would to you
mm-hmm.
on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke normal terms, normal words, and it was really funny because our kids began to use terminology and vocabulary at a very young age that mm-hmm. was way beyond their age.
Right.
Because we didn't do baby talk.
Right.
You can if you want. We're not against it. It's just we chose not to do that.
Yeah.
But we did that because we were always serious about the development of our children.
Right.
And we knew that when God gave us children, we weren't called to be their friends. We weren't called to be their buddies. We were mm-hmm. called to be their parents. We were right. called to raise them up in the way that they should go mm-hmm. so that when they got older, they wouldn't depart from what we taught them, be it in their hygiene, be it in their eating habits, be it in right. their faith, be it in courtesy and manners.
Right.
All those things, they start young. The one thing that I tell parents all the time who come to me, like, they look at our children like, well, how'd you do that? So, well, we started young.
Yeah.
We started early and we started often.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't just take a break. We always were doing that. And it paid off. I remember, like, our oldest son, she's 4 or 5, and we went to a football game with some friends at their hometown. Mm-hmm. And she was talking to them like adults, and they were just like jaws on the ground, like, that's a really smart kid. It's like, we just talk normal. She's not dumb, but she's not like genius. She wasn't
like genius.
No,
but she was just taught to speak
normally, and she could interact at a very young age with adults, and
right.
they were shocked because, you know, they cooed and baby talked to their children, and they couldn't talk like that. Just saying, right?
Yeah, right.
So you need to purposely raise your children and purposely think about those things. So what are some of the things that from 0 to 3 that we can teach our children?
Well, what I was sitting here thinking about was that you may think that there's not a lot of parenting that happens when a baby is a newborn, or, you know, up to like 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe 9 months. But actually, parenting does start first off from the beginning. And the first thing that a parent does is love their child.
Right.
So lots of love and cuddles, lots of taking care of all their needs, because a baby needs to know that you care and that you are loving them. They need to hear you singing softly over them. They need to hear your heartbeat. They need to hear your gentle words to them.
Yeah.
Our babies always recognize Brian's voice. You know, when they were really little, he would come home and his voice, and they would perk up to his voice. They couldn't always find him with their eyes, because that's what babies do. They're working on that, you know, but they could hear him. They could hear him speak, and that would make them kind of perk up and look around to try to find daddy's voice. So it's very important to parent them in the sense of you're loving them and getting them attuned to you.
Yeah.
So it's just a real special time when they're baby to take time to talk to them, even though they don't necessarily understand everything you're saying. You're putting your voice in their ears. And then after you do that, they know who you are. They understand that you are the one who is there for them.
Yeah.
You may get a child who becomes clingy at a certain age,
Yep.
just because they know, all they know is that you are the one who brings them
Food.
and you're the one who changes their diaper,
Yes.
and you're the one who's always there for them. So just they need that. That's parenting. That's consistent, being on top of it, parenting that gives that child a foundation where they know that they are loved and cared for.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the babies in this world who are born to druggies or people who don't have their life together, and they leave their children on doorsteps, and they don't or in garbage cans. I mean, they just don't know what to do with babies. Those children, when if they survive, and when they survive, they have an instability about them.
They do.
Because those few months in the beginning are very important for that baby to know they're loved, and it brings them that stable, firm foundation to their life. So it's really important. Don't leave that part out. Always take time to be there and speak well and sing well over your child. We always sang over our babies.
Yep.
Now I'm musical. I'm musical, so that makes a difference. But Brian's musical too, and not to the level I am, but he is.
What?
And so we would always sing over our babies. We sang.
I sang to them when they were in the mama's belly.
He made up songs for them.
I created a song for every one of my children.
Yes.
And I sang to them. I think it's why they recognize my voice, because I've been singing to them for 10 months.
Exactly. And so we would sing over them, though. We would sing children's Bible songs.
Yep.
We would sing just soothing melodies and lullabies, but we sang over them. We sang the word over them.
Yep.
I mean, the scripture is very powerful, and so singing the word over them, it's just filling their inner person with all of the things of God, which we wanted them to recognize as they were growing. And so we were giving them foundation in all the spiritual ways that we could, as well as just loving and holding them.
Yeah. So that kind of covers 0 to 1-ish in that neighborhood, but 1 to 3 begins to. Now you start to actually parent. Now you start to teach a child some things. You're trying, and they'll come up to you, and they're so stinking cute.
Yeah.
And they look at you, those little doe eyes, those little baby eyes, and they got you wrapped around their finger, and they know it.
Yeah.
And then they try to get by with stuff because they think that they can, because you're wrapped around their finger and you adore them so much, especially the first child.
Yes.
And by the second or third, you're on to the tricks a little bit more. But by the first child, you're like, oh, she's so wonderful, or he's so cute.
And then you have to tell them no.
Oh my word! The first time you tell a child no, somewhere between the age of 1 and 3, it's like you broke their leg in 7 places. It's a major compound fracture. They're looking at you like, you said what?
Yeah.
I said no. I mean, they just start screaming bloody murder. The neighbors are calling DCFS.
No.
It's horrible. It's a mess, because they don't understand no. Because up to that point, you've been feeding them, you've been changing their diaper, you've been telling them how much you love them, you've been singing over them, you've been developing the connection with them.
But the next stage of loving them is telling them no.
Bingo.
Because there are some things that aren't good for them. And if you were not loving them, you would just let them do them, and they would get injured, and they would have a problem, later in life because of some of the choices they're making. It's just, it is loving them to tell them no. I'm not going to say that 1 is the age you can start telling them no. Some children catch on really early.
Yeah, they're before
that
1.
They're going to tempt you and try to do things that are dangerous, like sticking their finger in a light socket,
on.
in the electrical socket. Some kids, want to put everything they have in their hand into places it shouldn't go.
In their mouth, in their nose, in their ear.
Yeah, right. So you have to say no to children when it's endangering them, when it's not
rocks.
good for them. Yeah. we had a child who wanted to eat dirt. I'm
Yep.
like, no, you can't eat the dirt. You have to say no. So remember that you're loving them when you're telling
Right.
them no. You're not just trying to be mean, and you're not
Right.
just trying to hurt them, but you're trying to keep them from being hurt. And so watch for when that you'll see it. There's a look in their eye when they look at you as they're about to do something, and you know that they know they're doing it. It's real. They know they're doing it. And so at that point, that's when you can say yes or no to them, and they're going to start catching on.
Yeah.
Now, if you say no about it and they're, 9 months or 1 year old, say no and then turn them around and take them somewhere else.
Right.
Don't just stand there and have a battle of wills with them, because they are little. So take them to something else. And if they walk themselves back to it, you're going to have to say no again.
Yeah.
But at least you tried to divert them. That's something to do when they're really
From
little.
0 to 3, distraction works fairly well.
Yeah.
And
maybe 0 to 2. After 2, distraction is not always great. But
it becomes a little more of a challenge. We have a granddaughter who is cute as cute can be.
Mm-hmm.
And she is ornery as can be. And I don't mean that mean or negative. She'll look at you, she'll flash them pretty little smile.
And smile.
And then do it anyway. And you're like, no, young lady. First time I had to get after her. Oh my gosh, that was worse than my own children.
Yeah.
Papaw told me no. How dare he?
Yeah.
That's abuse.
Mm.
And so, but yeah. So you have to get past the cuteness.
Yeah.
You have to get past the funny. I can think of in that age time frame, maybe it's a little after that age, maybe the next stage. One of my children, I like jokes. I tell bad dad jokes, and I like bad puns. And I went to correct her, and she told me a joke, and I laughed, and then she got in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to reprimand her anyway. And she was like, "But you laughed." So,
yes, but you still are in trouble.
Yeah, I told you if you did that, this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing when you're raising them. And this really happened probably after 2 or 3. But
it kind of starts in the
starts
early
in 2 and
stages,
3.
yeah.
Keep your word.
Yes.
If you told them that if they do ABC, then
No
they're going to
snack.
have to have no snack. Don't give them a snack.
That's right.
Or if they do ABC and you're like, you have to go to bed early,
Mm-hmm.
put them in bed early.
Mm-hmm.
You keep your word.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's a chink in your armor and they realize that you're not going to keep your word, they won't obey you.
That's right.
They will push the boundaries further and further and further until they understand this is the boundary.
Yeah.
And there's boundaries even from 0 to 3.
There is. Yep.
There are certain things that we can and cannot do at that age. You're not allowed. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. And you don't have to really explain it in detail because they may not even understand it, but they understand the boundary.
At that age, they want you to read 50 books to them at night.
Every time.
And when you're trying to get them to go to bed, 50 is a little much. And so you have to say, we're only going to read 2 books. Give them a number, whatever it is for you. But 2 books. And then when 2 books are over, you don't say, oh, well, we could do another one. You just say 2 books and we're done.
Right.
And then you kiss them and say their prayers and put them to bed.
Right.
You have to stick to your guns for the good things and the bad things.
Yeah.
You have to stick to your guns.
Mom!
United
I want
front.
water now.
United front and stick to what you say.
Absolutely.
As very, very important rules for the very beginning of life.
Absolutely. I'm just going to tell you, it starts young and it continues through their life.
Yeah.
You need to set boundaries. You can adjust them through their life. And we'll talk about it as we go through this month with the different podcasts this month. We'll definitely talk about those things. But I'm going to tell you, I youth pastored for over a decade.
Yep.
Like 15, 16 years. And so many young people, and we're not even to that stage of development in what we're talking about, but so many young people will come to me, like, my parents don't even like me. I'm like, well, what makes you think that? I'm thinking they're getting beaten, they're getting abused, all the things that the world talks about. And no, they're like, they let me do anything I want.
Yeah.
They don't love me. They let me do any and everything that I want.
Yeah.
And they associate no boundaries with no love.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you, start young and stay consistent with your boundaries with your children.
Yep.
You've got something?
I do. we have this book here.
Oh my goodness! Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. The family manual. If you're on the video, you can see the cover of it. See?
Woo-woo.
And if you're on the podcast, take my word for it. It's a pretty yellow and lavender book, and it says The Family Manual, a practical guide to raising a Christian family. And this is a book that the Lord gave me to write.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to read a little paragraph here out of this book, because it's another thing about toddlers and about your children, parenting your children young. Our thoughts and words are powerful. They set things in motion in our lives. You need to change those attitudes and expect and speak good things over your children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again. Expect and speak good things over your children. Expect to enjoy your children. Expect for them to be well-behaved and respectful. Bless them and say good things about them. Look forward to time together and root out the thought that they are interrupting your life. They are a gift and a blessing to your life.
Yeah.
So say so. They need to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
What you speak over your child is so important. And
Yep.
even in the beginning ages,
Yep.
what you say over them, what you speak over them is what's going to take root in their heart, and it's going to shape who they see themselves as. And so you want to say positive things over them. We never told our children that they were failures, that
Right.
they were going to amount to anything, or you're just dumb or stupid. We never said that to our kids. We always spoke over them. You are so smart. I'm so proud of you. You have done a great job on this. And it didn't matter what it was. If they were making effort, they were doing a great job, and we were proud of them, and we were sharing that with them, and we spoke over them that they were blessed.
Yeah.
And so the words you speak over children is another thing that's very important to
Yep.
begin
Yeah.
their life even with, is those things that are encouraging and uplifting them.
Yeah.
So in this age group, there is the age 2.
Uh-oh.
There's going to be
I know where she's going.
50 people who
More
come
than
up
that.
to you,
More
or
than
maybe
that.
100
More
or
than
200. I don't know. They're all going to come up to you and say,
Oh, the terrible
Terrible
twos.
reject that right away. Reject that. Whenever anyone said that to us about any of our children, we always said, we don't have terrible 2s. We have terrific 2s.
Yeah.
We refused to let that be implanted in our children
Yep.
or in our family. We do not have terrible 2s. We have
Mhm.
terrific 2s.
And we didn't.
We didn't have bad 2s.
No.
Our 2s were fine.
They had moments, but it wasn't like the entire year was, like, oh my gosh, can't wait till they turn 3. Oh,
Right,
it's even
yeah.
worse at 3.
No, thrilling 3s.
Yeah.
We had thrilling 3s, terrific 2s, thrilling 3s,
Fantastic
fantastic
fours.
4s. We
Fabulous
always
5s.
had a good word to say about the age that they were, because it was always a special age. They were learning and growing
Yeah.
and becoming who God wanted them to be. And we were a family together, loving one another and enjoying each other. That was the other thing in that paragraph I read.
Right.
Enjoy your children. Don't look at them as a problem. That's part of parenting, is
It
to
is.
see them as a gift and a special thing in your life. Is your children. You get to bless them and raise them and enjoy them, enjoy being with them. Don't be the parent who says, oh, I just can't wait for them to go back to school. Oh, my kids are driving me nuts. Don't speak that over yourself.
Come
even,
on.
because then you're saying that you are going to be crazy. Don't be a crazy parent. You want to be a sound parent.
Yeah.
So, I love my kids. I love being home with them. I love it when they get to be home with me. We homeschooled, so we were together all the time. There was never me sending them back to school somewhere.
Well, there was, just from the bedroom to the front room.
Right. I mean, but it was still in our house. So, but we loved being together.
Yes.
And I loved being with them.
Yeah.
And so we always reinforced that in what we said about our family.
Yep.
So those are some really good pointers to starting off.
Yeah.
As a parent in those really early years. They're very formative. They're very foundational, and they're very important to be handling them in the right way.
Yeah, that's good. Why don't you do a quick summation? We've already done our shameless plug. So
you want to be on the same page as parents. Make sure that you are thinking the same. Have discussions about that. That means you have to communicate.
Oh.
So be on the same page. You have to mean what you say and speak good things over your children. Put Jesus in as much as possible. Always put Jesus in. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Pray over your children, sing over your children, hold them and rock them and hum and love them. Put the love of God into their hearts. Do all those things. And remember that when you have to say no, it's because you love them. That's why you're saying no. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I think that was more of an editorial than it was a summation, but it's okay. We'll take it. She did great. So we're glad you're here. We're praying for you. We're believing for you to have a great 2024, for God to bring to you everything that you have need of for this year and beyond. So thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe on the podcast, whether it be at Podpoint, which is our main place that we air our podcast, or anywhere that you download your podcast. Be sure to share it, like it, subscribe to it. Right now on Podpoint, we got about 300 of you that are subscribing.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, we appreciate it. But we would love if you start sharing.
Yes.
Not just subscribe, but share it with your friends.
Yes.
If it's been a benefit to you, share it with other people. Please put comments on both at the podcast and on the YouTube videos.
Yes.
We like to hear from you and know what's going on. So like, subscribe, share, tell us good stuff, tell us bad stuff, and we'll ask you why you think that. But we'll go on from there. But thank you again for being with us, and we will see you next time. We're going to have Leslie pray us out, and then we will let this go, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for all the young families, Lord, that are listening. Thank you for the grandparents that are listening, even who have young grandchildren and have people in their families that need to hear the truth of how to raise children in a God-fearing way and a respectful way, Father, in a loving way. Father, we pray for these families that they would be saturated in your love, that they would be saturated with your presence, that, Father, in their homes, it would be honoring to you at all times, that they would bless their babies, they would bless their toddlers and love them enough to say no when they need to, and love them enough to bless them and just do special things for them when it's appropriate. Father, I thank you for giving them insight as they parent, and bringing your word up inside of them to remind them of how they are to love and behave as parents and toward their children. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, that said, we will talk to you soon. So bye for now.